So the type of project or Django project we're going to create today is a blog in which a user can, write a blog post, create a new blog post, update a blog post, or delete their own blog post. So we're going to be doing CRUD: create, read, update, destroy, or delete. Those are like the basic operations of any application. If you think of any single application you interact with on a daily basis, whether it's Reddit, Facebook, Robinhood, YouTube, what you're doing, you're either creating content, you're updating content, such as like updating a profile picture, reading content. So you're just reading from a news feed or from your favorite Reddit subreddit, or you're deleting content, you're removing photos, deleting posts that you're embarrassed about from 15, 20 years ago, whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a project. We're going to create a Django project. But before I do that, let's go ahead and make a directory called Django CRUD. CRUD, remember, stands for create, read, update, delete. So I'm going to go into Django CRUD. I'm going to open this into a new VS Code window. And can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, great. All right. So let's just go through the steps. I'm creating a new Django project. We're going to first create a virtual environment. What in the hell? Oh. Python make venv. We're going to source that. So we're going to activate that virtual environment. Great. And we're going to pip install Django, and we're also going to install psycopg. Did I spell that right? Psycopg2, because we're going to be using a Postgres database. All right. Does anyone have any questions before we really start running? All right. I don't know what is going on. There we go. So install Django and psycopg2. Now let's go ahead and create a Django project called my site. So I can do run Python, Django admin, start project, my site, space period. I'm doing the space period, so it's not a nested project. So I've got my site and my manage.py. So let's go ahead and create, I'm using a Postgres database. So let's go ahead and create a Postgres database called blog. Create DB blog. Looks like I already have one called blog. So I'm going to drop the database and go ahead and create that blog database again. Now I created that database blog. Now let's register that, or let's link it to our Django project. So I opened up the Django project my site settings.py file. I scroll all the way down to the databases, and I'm going to be using Postgres database. The name of that database is blog. And there we go. The next thing I want to do, I'm going to create my app. So I'm going to do Python manage.py start app. I'm going to just call this app called blog. So I created a blog app, and there's my blog app now. So I've got my blog. Now, when you create your app, when you're creating your app, we want to create our models. So again, I'm going to be creating settings, models. I'm going to be creating a post. So blogs have posts. So I'm just going to create a post class that inherits from the built-in Django model class. And each post has a title, models.char field. Let's make that a length of 200. Post.text, or so we have a title, we have a body, or we can call it text, or content, whatever we want to call that. And titles or char field has a max length of 200. However, posts, like the content of one of your posts, is probably going to have a length of longer than 255 characters. So we're going to make it a text field. So it can be pretty much any length. And it's going to have a published date. Published date and models.date time field. And blank, I can equal true because the blank could be true, and null could equal true as well. What else am I missing from a post?
Author.
So author. So now this is where Django kind of does some stuff for us. Some like things that we don't always have to. So typically a post has a user or an author. So previously I would have to create like a class, user class, and create a user class. However, Django has a built-in auth user model or a built-in user model that Django already has for us. So I can do from Django config, import settings, and in my auth model, I can do models.foreign key settings equals, or settings dot auth user model. So the foreign key, so I'm using the built-in user model, which is called auth user model. And I'm going to do on delete models.cascade. So I'm not defining a new user model. I'm just using Django's built-in user model. And you can update, like you have the ability to override the built-in user model. You can add fields to the built-in user model. You can extend the built-in user model, or just totally disregard the built-in user model and use your own user model. It just all depends on what you want to do. But for this case, I'm going to use the built-in auth user model. All right. And last, I'm going to do def dunder string self return self.title. All right. So I'm using the auth user model. And if I look down here, I don't know if it's actually in settings in my settings.py file. Let's see if it's not. Anyway, if you wanted to override and look at, like, have Django look at a different user model, you can define that here in settings as well. But you'll see that later on. All right. So I've got my post model and I'm using the built-in user model. That's great. So now I'll need to make migration, Python manage.py, make migrations blog. No installed app labeled blog. So what I forgot to do was in my settings is link my Django app blog to my Django project through the settings of installed apps. So I can clear that and run that again. So I created my post model. Now, what do I want to do? So what I'm going to do now inside of my Django app, inside of admin. So we have this admin.py file. And in here is where, notice how it says register your models here. So this admin.py file is associated with our admin panel. And we can have or display our models in our admin panel. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to register my post model to the admin panel. And I can do that by running admin.site. So the admin site, I'm going to register the post model to that. So I'm registering, I'm adding the post model to our admin site. If I had multiple models, like comments, this register can take in a list of models as well. So if you need to register multiple models as well. So you can say like list or my models equals post comment, and you can register all your models like that as well if you had multiple models. But we only have one, so we can just do, we don't need to add it as a list. We can just add it like so. So after did I make migrations yet? Yep. So I made migrations. Now I need to migrate. So Python manage.py migrate. And this time I'm not just going to migrate the blog. I'm going to migrate all the built-in migration scripts by running Python manage.py migrate. Uh-oh, what did it say? Models.py. Where am I going at? Oh.
Go back to admin, and it's at the very top. You still comment.
Thank you. Cool. So these are all the default migration scripts that are applied to, that already come built in with Django. So these are all the built-in ones. Here's my other one, the one I built, the blog. And I guess this is another one that's built in as well. So I'm going to run the server, Python manage.py, run server. Hopefully everything, all right, it's working. Now here's 8,000 from the last lecture. So here you have the default splash page. Now if I go to admin and run that, notice how it's got this admin panel with a username and password. So this is what the admin dashboard looks like. So again, Django does a lot of heavy lifting for you. You know, typically there are admin panels in applications where only authorized users can have access to various parts of the application. And this is where this exists. But I don't have a password, or I don't have a username yet. So I can do that. I can create a user by coming back to the terminal, or back to killing the server and back here. I can run Python manage.py, create super user, all one word, and it's going to run through a prompt to create a super user of my application. So Python manage.py, create super user. So it says username, leave blank to use the default username of my laptop. It's TA Preet, or I can type in my own username like Tom, click enter. I can add an email address, tom@email.com. And I can enter in a password. I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3. Enter in the password again, 1, 2, 3. And now it gives me a prompt or some like warnings. This password is too short. It must contain at least eight characters. This password is too common. This password is entirely numeric. So it already has some password protections built into Django. And if you remember in settings, if you come down here, this auth password validators, that's what that's doing. Making sure it's got a minimum length, password, common password validator, numeric password validator. This is what that's why it's throwing these errors. If I got rid of these, it wouldn't throw these errors. Not even errors, I'd say warnings. But it says bypass password validation and create user anyway. I'll just say yes. Super user created successfully. I'm going to clear the terminal. I'm going to run that server again. I'm going to come back to the Django admin panel right here. And I'm going to type in my username is Tom and my password name is 123. And I'm going to log in. And now this is the admin dashboard that comes built into Django. And notice how it already has some stuff, admin stuff associated with it. So we have authentication and authorization. So we already have these like users. This is that built-in auth user model. So it's got username Tom, email address. It also has first name, last name, staff status associated with it. And I can show you that as well by coming to Postico. And I'm going to go to blog. And if I go to auth user, you can see all the fields that are already built into the auth user model. It's got the last login, a hashed salted password, my username. It doesn't have my first or last name because it's not required. It's got my email address, whether or not this user is a staff password or is a staff member. So is staff is a Boolean value, is active, whether or not this user is active. This is a Boolean value, as well as the date the user joined. Any questions about this? I have a question for you all. I have this is active to true. When you delete your users from any application, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, do you think your data is actually deleted? Do you think your user is actually deleted from the database?
No.
Nope. They probably just have an is active set to false. And so whenever you log in or whenever it says to display information about that user, it checks if the user is as active. If it says false, it says user can't be found or something like that. User has been deleted or no user found. But they still have all your data. All right. So let's go back.
So is it the same concept when you actually delete a post? Do they not actually delete it? They just change it to false as well?
Depends on why they might. It only depends if they want to use that information for other things.
Real quick, I'm sorry, this is, I guess, somewhat unrelated, but like, do they eventually delete it? Because that does seem like at some point it probably would take up a lot of memory and just kind of clog the system.
Well, when you have billions upon billions of dollars in cash sitting in your bank account, it doesn't really matter. Data is king. So the more data they have, the better. The more money they can make off you. They can still sell your data to other people, even though you're technically deleted.
Also, I think are there legal requirements for holding those messages too, for a certain amount of time.
Yeah. And again, yeah. And it also depends on, certain regulatory laws and stuff like GDPR and all that. Sometimes they are forced to, they're legally have to delete that data. But if they're not legally if they don't legally have to delete any data, they won't. All right. So we've got our users. We can also create user groups or these groups. I've never really used that, but you can create groups of types of users. But notice down here, we also have our blog app, with our blog or our post model. And here, and what's great about the admin dashboard, so in the past we would either create, run the terminal and run the Python shell and create, post objects in here like we did last lecture. But with the admin panel, the admin dashboard, we can actually create posts. What the hell just happened? We can go ahead and actually add posts here. So this is all built in. So author, I can select all the users that are in my database. There's only one, so I'm just selecting Tom. So Tom's first post. Here is my first post. Since this is a publish date, it's the date time field. It has this displayed here. So I'm going to do today and now. And now I can go down here. I can save and add another, save and continue editing, or just save. Let's add, 3 posts. Second post. Blah, 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 whatever. Now save and add another. Third post. Here's some more gibberish. And save. Now you can see I've got all my posts that are right here. Tom's first post, second post, third post. Great. So that's the admin dashboard. It's kind of nice. You can mess around in there and add data, delete data, etc. But that's all it's really used for. And maybe manage users and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and log out and go back to the landing page. So kind of like how we reviewed this morning. Do I even still have that up there anymore? Let me bring something up. Sorry, my computer is running slow. So we're going to be creating a blog. And remember the process of what we want to do. We want to create our URLs, create our views, create our templates, create our URLs, views, templates, and just repeat that. So here, where do I want to start? So notice here, it first goes to my URLs, but it starts at the Django project URLs and then reads from the Django app URLs. So let's first go to our Django project URLs and create a URL path to all of our posts. So posts, and have it look at the blog URLs file. What is it? No named blog URLs. So now I need to go to my Django app and create a urls.py file. So I'm just going to copy this over just so I'm not making any mistakes. And delete this admin. And so here, when I just go to /posts, I want it to display all my posts. So I'm going to create a views.post list that lists all the posts. Post list name equals post underscore list. So I'm going to have to import views, and I can go import views and import the post list as well. I can do it that way. And so I don't need to have this views here. I can do that as well, but I'm just going to keep it like this. So I created my URL pattern that goes to /posts. Now where do I go? Now do I need to build out? If you look at this, what should I build out next?
Your
Template?
HTML template?
I'm sorry.
Template?
So
Your views.
I haven't created my views yet. So I created my URL. I said what view method I'm going to be using. I'm going to creating a post list view, but I haven't created that view. So if I look right here, it says blog views has no attribute post list. So now I can go to my views and import from models, import my post. And here I'm going to create my views. So def post list. Again, it takes in the request. I'm going to grab all posts. I'll just say all posts equals post.objects.all, or I'm going to do, what is it, order by. And I'm going to order it by the publish date. Now I'm going to do data equals all posts, And now I can return, render the request. And now here is where I'm going to create a template. I'm going to call it blog/post_list.html. I haven't created that yet, but this is what I'm going to end up creating as a template. And I'm going to pass in that data dictionary of all posts. Cool. So now I need to create my templates. Because I created my views, my view for that URL. Now I need to create my template for that. So in here, I'm going to create templates, create another directory called blog. And inside that blog directory, I'm going to create the post_list.html. So inside my post list, I'm just going to do HTML and just do the boilerplate. So here, I can just do, take a div, create an A tag, an href equals, I'm going to do my blog. And in here, this is where I'm going to use that named route. URL post_list, like so. So if I come back here and just go to, /posts. What did it say? Post list HTML does not exist. Where did it mess up? Blog post list.
Would you have to put templates before the blog?
No, where am I missing? Something's.
Tom, how about, did you have to put these templates in the settings file?
I don't think you don't have to do that. Why isn't that working? Let's see, post list. Let me just see something real quick.
Is it a / after the, in the href there on line 12 or no?
Post list. Line 12, no, where is it?
What about the URLs in my site? Does it include everything in the app?
In my site. Posts, blog URLs, comes to URLs, post list. So it has something to do with this template. Shouldn't need. Blog post list HTML.
I know on the browser, it'll show you what file path it's actually looking at.
Blog post list.
I think you may
In
need blog colon.
Using in the first gray part. It's like the first URL line, I think. Oh, yeah, it's looking at admin app. I think.
See. I just want to see something. Posts, templates, blog. You actually might need that, but I don't think you did. Let me see something.
I was thinking like line 12 there. Do you need URL space blog colon post list?
I think it's namespace.
What's that?
I think that's it. It's that what he was saying. There's a namespace because it's looking in the admin app for that post list.
Like that shouldn't be it.
But I think you have to also then define that blog part too.
No. So blog is not registering. Yeah. So let me just see something. That's weird. I don't like that at all. Okay. I just learned something. So apparently I'll have to do research as to why HTML. So if you use the basic boilerplate, it won't work. But if you just do it's interesting. Anywho. So
is it because you have that markdown, the brackets with the % signs, and you didn't have it in your other HTML when you were trying to run that href?
Did I not? I had it
You
here.
didn't have the no, but do you need like the end of and the other thing at the beginning? Like
no.
Wrap that div in that?
No, it's literally just looking for this template, and there must be something going on maybe within the head that looks at a different spot. Anyway, it's okay. All right, so I've got this post list. I'm grabbing, this is a named route, so it links back to this post list. And now it's saying for posts, and let's do all posts because that's what I'm passing in. All posts. So it's grabbing each individual post and all the posts, and it's grabbing the post title, publish date, and I think this is content. Like so. Now, if I come back here, whoop, and refresh that, here we go. We've got Tom's first post, second post, third post. And right here, the href isn't going anywhere yet because I haven't built out those named routes yet. All right. So now I can, yeah. So this is it so far, but now let's actually add some styling to it. So if I wanted to add Bootstrap to this, what would I have to do? I'd have to create the head tag, Remember, do you remember how I add Bootstrap to this?
Do you need a link?
Yep. So I need that link that links to the minified Bootstrap. So right here, so I added this link to it. Let's see if that does anything. So the default Bootstrap. Cool. So Bootstrap kind of already kind of made it a little bit more pretty or less ugly. Great. Now let's actually add some styling or like some actual CSS. So just like we added the templates folder, if we want to add any of our static files, such as like JS, JavaScript files, or CSS files, or images, any of our static files, we need to create a static directory. Inside this directory, let's create another directory called CSS, which is going to hold all of our CSS file for our blog. And then inside that CSS file, let's go ahead and create a blog CSS file. And this blog CSS file is going to be associated with the styling to our blog. So let's go ahead and style some stuff. Let's target. Let's actually take a look at our HTML file, our template. So let's target this my blog and the title. Let's make the title of both of them. Michael.
For that naming convention, just so I'm trying to keep up here, use the blog like subfolder inside of what's already a blog app folder, right? Is that just because we're expecting to have like multiple pages within the blog app, and we at this time only have one, and typically you'd have multiples? I'm just trying to understand why you broke it into a CSS.
So you don't have to do it. So you don't have to do it like this. So you can just call it whatever, but I'm just showing it's blog.css because it's going to be the styling associated with our blog.
Okay. I'm assuming it's going to be kind of standard to do it that way. I was just wondering kind of how you were breaking it out, because it is living within the app, the
Right.
blog app folder. Okay.
Right. And when we link to it in our HTML template, you can kind of pretty much call it whatever you want, but I'm just, for sake of what this is referring to, I'm just calling it for blog CSS.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out conventions so I don't do it completely wrong.
Oh no, yeah, you'll see it once we like how the structure looks. All right, so let's actually target the H1 href, or yeah, the link tag, as well as the H2 link tag. And let's make that color. What color should we make this title as well as the titles of our posts? Anybody know of any cool colors? No?
Pink.
Just straight pink? Why not pale violet red? Let's do pale violet red. All right. And I think that's good for right now. So how do we go about linking the blog CSS file to the head?
Style sheet link in the HTML.
Yeah, so we can link it. So I'm just gonna add a title, my blog. So inside of here, I'm gonna create an HTML tag. I'm gonna add all that up to it. And within here, I'm gonna have a link relation what is it, style sheet, href, and then here, I'm gonna have it equals, open bracket, closing bracket, the 2% signs, and I'm gonna reference the static css/blog.css, and then closing tag. But it doesn't know where this is coming from yet. So at the very, very top of your file, I need to load all the static files into this file, and now I can reference it. So if I kill the server and rerun it and refresh it, there we go. I have a pink titles, or red, what is it, pale violet red titles. So just quick, let's go over what we did in order to create a CSS file and link it. So link to Bootstrap, very just like how we normally would, typically in using HTML. But then in order to create a CSS file, we first create a static directory within our blog app. Within the static directory, we created a CSS directory within the static directory. And then within the CSS directory, we created our CSS file. And then we linked that file to whatever template we want to by putting this load static at the very top of the file. And then we also link that specific style sheet using Jinja by referencing the static directory and accessing the specific CSS file in the static directory. Any questions? No. All right. So next, what we can do is, if we didn't like these fonts that I'm using right here, just like we imported Bootstrap to utilize specific set of styling conventions, we can also import fonts. Has anybody heard of Google Fonts before? I'm sorry?
It's legit. It's super the best.
Yep. So these are all a bunch. Google Fonts has a bunch of open source fonts that you can use throughout, or just use just like you use Bootstrap for your application. Do you want to use a specific font? The hell is that?
Yeah, Poppins. Use Poppins. It's my favorite.
Poppins?
I'm a big Comic Sans guy myself.
Yeah, get out of here.
Comic Sans.
How do you spell it?
Poppins. It's on the front page. It's the first one.
There we go.
Yeah.
So Poppins. So here we can actually like write what it looks like in different styling, thin 100, thick 100. Let's go ahead and do regular. We can select that style to use within our app. And now notice how when I select one style, it gives us a link to add to our HTML. And we can also add, what else do we want? We can add, bold. We can just keep adding like all kinds of different styling. So in order to use that, I can add this link to our HTML. And then in order to use it, I can run this font family Poppins inside of our CSS. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to come over here, add that link down here, like so. I don't remember ever seeing these pre-connects before, but I guess that's what we need to add now. And lastly, I'm going to make some edits to this part as well, just to our body, just so we can add some different styling to it. So I'm just going to replace that. So I added some classes, I added some divs, I added row, column. This is all from Bootstrap. And now let's go ahead and add some more styling to it. So inside of this H1, I'm just going to add all the styling to it. But instead of, where is it? Lobster, I'm going to do Poppins. I think that's how it goes. Poppins and sans serif. Well, yeah. Poppins. Like so. So if I kill the server, I think you have to restart the server just to make sure these things get implemented. If I refresh, oh, where'd my blog go? I know what I did. So instead of where did it go? And all posts. Oh, did I miss something? All posts, title, content. All right, that should, there we go. So now it's looking a little bit more, I don't want to say pretty, but it's looking a little bit better. And you can add any changes you want. So like so, etc. Any questions about any of that?
Can I see the urls.py file? I think I messed something up there.
Was it this one? Yeah, I couldn't hear you. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and take a